He's a member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee and one of the few Democrats who supports Israel and the president's efforts there. Senator, great to have you this morning. Welcome.
Oh, gee, Maria, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, let's talk about paying for this war and the defense supplemental and this push from some of your colleagues to cut off all aid to Israel in the middle of a war.
Well, look, America is the arsenal to the free world, whether it's in Ukraine or whether it's in Israel or whether it's in the Middle East and perhaps maybe even in Taiwan as well. That costs a lot of money. And I'll be the one Democrat, at least the one Democrat, that's going to be open to that argument. We have to replenish, with those kinds of critical munitions and other things. So I'm always going to proud to stand with our military and never make it about politics. But I also deeply, deeply grieves for the two heroes that we lost yesterday that was announced now too. It's a dangerous, dangerous job to defend democracy.
It sure is, and they put their lives on the line to do just that. And I want to get your take at this upcoming week, because this week is probably the final window to get anything really done in terms of the Reconciliation 3.0 or this supplemental money. What are your expectations for this debate and markup Wednesday and Thursday?
I really don't have any specific insights, but describe what's happened in the past. I refuse to make it about politics overall. And now I hear things, it's crazy. They're talking about another shutdown. Now that would put me at odds, with the Democratic Party. I will never vote to shut our government down. We have to find a better way. That's a core responsibility. And now the reasons why we shut our government down, whether it's healthcare or reforms with ICE, neither of those ever happened. So it's a loser for American. And now I know there are my colleagues that don't want to do these things, but I'll stand up to the party and say this is wrong to do that. So that's the situation, and I'm very disappointed to that would be the third shutdown in like 9 months. That's insane.
Senator, it complicates things that you've got these very far left candidates winning and socialists now in leadership positions. I mean, you've got the mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, threatening that he will have Benjamin Netanyahu arrested if he comes to New York for the UNGA, which is happening in September. What are your thoughts here on Mamdani threatening to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to the U.S.?
It's such a tough guy to say that kind of thing. He has no way to do that. Of course, obviously, America's not even part of that corrupt court. And so he's just a clown to even say that. So he won't try that. And I'll just sit down and focus on the problems that they have in New York. That's really not your purview. You and I know that. Sit down.
Yeah. And yet you've got colleagues on in the Democrat Party pushing to upend the president's agenda. I mean, the president has been putting America first. What do you want to say to some of your colleagues who really won't allow the president any wiggle room whatsoever? They want to stop and upend his agenda at every turn.
Well, what I will say, the agenda, there's some things that I support and then some that I don't really agree with. But now we've got to find a better way forward and not turn to shutting our government down or describe people that they're trying to destroy our democracy or get involved in those silly kinds of arguments overall. Iran is absolutely, that's important. Now, remember, they have nuclear dust. Why isn't that important? Why doesn't that justify to continue to justify these kinds of strikes? I think it's an important thing to break the Iranian military regime as they continue to do. Now, Democrats, people that are running, like the guy in Michigan, he refused to even criticize Iran. We'll criticize America, we'll criticize, people in the Democratic Party, but not the guy that just massacred 30,000 young Iranians in the streets a couple months ago.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I've seen you with Lindsey Graham. I've seen you with other Republicans trying to work together. You are a Democrat, and yet you are not afraid to reach across the aisle. And yet your colleagues are attacking even the legacy of the former South Carolina senator. Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. I'm proud to call Senator Graham as a friend. We bonded over our love and devotion to Israel. Senator, he was working on important work. Now, great, there's this picture. Yeah, he was a great American. It doesn't mean that he was just a Republican. That doesn't change that he's a great American. And now his legacy, and I can't wait to vote on that, the Ukrainian, bill, the Russian kinds of sanction, and now also what he's involved, normalizing Israel and Saudi Arabia. That's important stuff that he was doing. If anything, that poor man worked to death. He was always committed to get things done and work together. He was a very bipartisan guy. Yeah, there might be some professional wrestling kind of stuff in public, but in privately, he was always the first guy to cross the bridge and to find a way forward and be very, very agreeable. You can't fill those shoes without a doubt. But I think it's also fantastic that his sister's now, it seems like she's going to be able to carry on that legacy.
Yeah, Darlene Graham was voted in, was named his replacement. But Senator, you've said that the Democrat Party has officially become the anti-Israel party. And you said that you've got no plans to leave, but if they were to go even further into that, that would be your breaking point. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, candidates in a party runs on the party's platform. If the Democratic Party puts anti-Israel kinds of terms in that platform, that would force me to kind of reevaluate, should I remain as a Democrat? Now, if you look and you reference that vote, now 103 Democrats are voting supporting Israel. And if you look at the kind of people that are winning the primaries in Democrat across the country, whether in my state or whether in New York or whether in Colorado, and potentially what might happen in Michigan too, if that becomes official, even Jewish kinds of organizations like J Street are doing events with people like Hassan Piker. I mean, how can you embrace people like that? That Hamas is 1,000% better than Israel. If we became the kind of party that would embrace someone like Hassan Piker, maybe my party doesn't want like a reasonable, common sense kind of Democrat that reminds people that standing with Israel, that at least used to be part of our core values, and one of the reasons why I've been proud to be a Democrat.
That's right. Senator, thanks very much for your leadership. We so appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Maria.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.